Hey everybody, it's Leero from Leero Gaming, and in today's Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous video, I want to put together all of the units for the Crusader system when it comes to the Golden Dragon Mythic pathway. So if you want to know what the units are, what they look like, how they fight, their stats, and my review on how effective or ineffective they are, well then this is the video for you. If you want to learn all about the Golden Mythic pathway, and its story as well as progression and quests, make sure to check out my ultimate mythic guide for the Golden Dragon. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at everything to know about the Crusader units for this pathway. Alright, we're going to start by showing off the first three main dragons that you're going to get access to. We're also going to go over two other units, the Dragonheir Scions and then the Dragonslayers. And then after this batch, I'm also going to show you two more units, including the Golden Dragon, which is going to be kind of the ultimate dragon. But for now, let's go ahead and compare the first three dragons we have. So we're going to go ahead and start out with the Bronze Dragon. So what kind of stats and what are we looking at here? Alright, so we're going to start and look at the Bronze Dragon. I want to point out that they have buff dragons. They've given them numerous abilities since I first played this. So some of this may be a little buggy for me. My original save file for this playthrough is a couple months old. And then when I was doing this recording recently, I want to point out that they added numerous abilities for these dragons. For example, it looks like there's this fog cloud, which is a permanent effect now on the dragon. So you'll notice unit and all adjacent allies get a +4 bonus to AC against range attacks for 1 round at the start of each round. So it's kind of a this definitely was not something that Bronze Dragons originally got. So that will impact their stats. Overall, as you see here, 141 morale. That's really high morale. This is going to increase your chance of getting basically proccing an extra turn. It's going to get you more attacks. 409 health, 25 power. This is important for calculating the breath attacks that you're going to see below. 30 AC and a damage reduction of 3, which is decent. The Bronze Dragons are electricity based, so they are immune to sleep paralysis and being knocked down. He does get a lot of attacks. So you're going to have your bite attack. Then you're going to have 2 melee attacks, 2 wing attacks, and a tail attack. And then there's going to be a couple features that are kind of really cool for the dragon. So you're going to get a breath attack option. And so this is a front cone. Now do be careful. As you can see here, you can hit your own allies as well. The calculation for electricity damage is power, which is 25 as we saw, times 2d8 times number of units. So this will scale really well if you get a lot of these units. And it also stuns all units for 3 rounds. So the stun effect is very, very powerful. This is the main reason you'd probably want this more than the damage. 3 rounds is a long stun. Now, you also have a couple toggleable abilities. So the first one is Thunder Tread. So all enemies within a 7-foot burst are going to, centered on a caster, are going to get a -4 penalty to attacks for the next turn, and you can deal attack damage to all enemy units within a radius of 2 squares. So this is important because it's not going to impact enemies. Because these dragons are so large, it's likely you're going to have like a mosh pit of enemies. This is going to help out with that. So there's that ability. You also have a toggleable blow through. So if the unit receives a -4 penalty to attacks on its next attack, what is toggled, but the unit's next melee attack will deal full attack damage to the target and half attack damage to all enemy units in a cone behind the target. So this is if you kind of are surrounded by enemies. This will, even though you have a lower chance to hit, if you do hit, you're going to do full damage. That's really cool. Of course, this is a dragon, so it's flight, so you can kind of fly over enemies, fly over friends, fly over kind of like obstacles, anything like that. So they're pretty cool. Let's kind of take a look at what they look like. So I'll just go fly up here and do an attack. So again, And I just procced the second attack. As you saw that, you're going to see that a ton with the dragons. And let's go ahead and show you kind of Thunder Tread as this option here. There you go. So again, I have 26 of them. Wasn't a huge amount of them yet, but it's still decent. What I'm definitely going to recommend is focusing on one dragon that you want and getting them buffed up using the abilities that we have in the Crusade system that we'll take a look at in a second again to max it out. Now, next we're going to look at the Copper Dragon. So the Copper Dragon, let's take a look at here. And again, it defaults to blow through on, but you can toggle it off or on. This dragon also has really nice morale, 141. Has 424 hit points, so a little bit more hit points. Same power of 25, a little less AC, 28 AC. So the other dragon was lawful good. These are chaotic good. They also have speed 5, so they're pretty mobile. And this one is acid based, and it's immune to sleep, paralysis, and being knocked prone. And again, they did buff these dragons across the board. I think as far as the number of attacks, if I remember back in the day when I first did this playthrough, they didn't all have this many attacks, but you'll notice a bite attack, 2 claw attacks, 2 wing attacks, and a tail attack. Decent damage when it adds up. It's okay. Again, I think I may have some bug. I don't know why they're showing -5 on all these dragons for the modifiers. They have 25 strength. I'm not seeing debuff, so maybe just because of my save file. So this should be a little bit more damage. Just do note that, you can, if you're looking at this should be like 2d6 plus modifiers, 1d8 plus your strength modifier. I don't know why they're minuses, but so that's important to note. Now you're going to have Thunder Tread as before. You're going to have Blow Through. You're going to have Flight, but now you're going to have basically Slow Breath. So this is a conal attack, acid attack. Unit creates a cone of acid. It deals power times 2d8 times unit numbers acid damage. So this is the same as the previous one, but the previous one had stun. This one applies a -2 penalty to speed, so that's how many spaces they can move. -3 penalty to attack, -5 penalty to initiative, and a -3 penalty to reflex save throws to all targets for 3 rounds. So this is all targets that you hit. So do be careful if you hit your own units. You will also do this to your own units. And then also it has lethargic breath. So this unit's attack. So this is not just your slow breath. This is also your melee attacks. Apply a -2 penalty to speed, -3 penalty to attack, -5 penalty to initiative, -3 penalty reflex saving throw for 3 rounds. It's a mind-affecting effect. And it also has flight. Now do note this one is a little bit more expensive at 450 experience. And again, let's kind of take a look. Obviously I can't get as close to here, so let me just kind of show off the breath attack. The melee attacks are very, very similar. So this is his breath attack. And there you go, we just proc the second attack. I'm just gonna show you the movement there. Now the next dragon I'm going to show you is the Brass Dragon. So again, very similar. You're going to have the blow through effect. Now let's take a look at their stats again. Very high morale, 141, 417 health. This one has less power, so that means its breath is going to be less powerful. It only has 14 power instead of 25. It has 28 AC. It's a fire type. It's immune to sleep paralysis and prone. And then as we see here again, we're going to have the same amount of attacks. The bite, 2 claw, 2 wing, and a tail attack. That's important to note. As far as its breath, it has a sleep breath, so it's a conal breath, and you got to be careful. Again, you can't hit your own friends. A unit creates a cone of fire that deals power times 2d8 times unit number fire damage. So again, all the dragons have the same formula, but this one's going to do less damage because you have 14 power instead of 25. And it puts to sleep all the units in for 3 rounds that it hits. So when they're asleep, they can't move or act. So it's kind of like stun, except that melee attacks against the units have a +4 bonus, but if you do take damage, it's going to wake up. So stunned enemies you can attack and they're not going to wake up here. While it is easier to hit them, once you hit them, they will wake up. So it is a little weaker. And again, let me kind of show you what this breath looks like. So there you go, looks pretty cool. Flame attack. And of course, you just saw it proc again, the effect, so pretty cool. Alright, next let's go ahead and take a look at the Dragonheir Scions. These are pretty cool. They're on, what are these? Well, they're on dinosaurs. I think Triceratops, I believe that's what this is. And so they're lawful good. Armored units, spellcasting units, cavalry, they are grand tier units. They have a speed 6, so they actually can move farther than the dragons, but they don't fly. They have 141 morale again, lots of morale, 402 hit points, 22 AC, not quite as high as the dragons. They have a damage reduction 3. That is good against basically everything for the most part. And there's an additional damage reduction 3 except, and then it says exception, slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning. So outside of those 3, you'll have damage reductions 6. You also have 5 resistances. So you absorb the first 5 damage of fire, cold, electric, and acid damage. It does they do a formidable amount of damage per hit. They only have 1 attack. There's a cold iron longsword. So here it's 1d8 plus the modifier. So for this one, I believe the modifier is appropriate or accurate. So here you're showing it's 56 to 64 each. And there are some pretty cool abilities. And again, this seems like it got buffed since I originally played with these. So they come with Shield Wall. So your unit gets a +4 AC and a -4 penalty to attack. And then it says for grand tier units, it's a +8 bonus to AC and a -8 penalty to attack. And since this is a grand tier, if we enable this, this should show up. I don't know if it's going to show it up live. The modifiers. The game's not always the best, but yeah, it looks like it did upgrade. So notice you have now 30 AC, but instead of being, now we're down to +27 to hit, which is still pretty decent. But basically, this is a really nice buff to survival, and also you get a -20% penalty to damage while the ability is activated. So you're also going to do less damage, and unfortunately, it looks like. But it's good for kind of if you're going to go in tanky mode. Now it also has Arcane Strike, so the unit's attacks ignore up to 3 points of damage reduction. So that's kind of nice. And you're going to also have Battering Ram attack. So unit gains a +1 bonus to attack until the end of the round for every 2 squares it moves. So remember, it can move up to 6 squares. So you can basically get +3 bonus to attacks if you move the full 6 squares. And then a final ability is Dragon's Awakening. Unit gains a +30% bonus to max hit points and a +10 bonus to all ability scores after destroying an enemy unit, which is pretty cool. Now, it's extremely expensive, 555 experience. You'll notice these are actually more expensive than the dragons. So as far as budget goes, that's not very cheap. Let's go ahead and see kind of how hard, what their attack animations are and movement animations are. So just goes and attacks with the sword. You know, nothing too fancy, but again, they can be quite tanky potentially, and they get some cool effects. And again, I mean, come on, it's a unit on a dino. All right, and then finally for this battle, we're gonna take a look at the Dragonslayers. So these guys are chaotic neutral actually, and again, you will only get these if you choose that specific option and the storyline that I mentioned. So if you kind of go on the side of the dragons, you won't get these, but I did want to show these off because they're quite amazing. Again, very high morale, 141. They have 172 hit points, which is actually pretty solid for a ranged unit. Now again, they have just ridiculously powerful damage per unit. So they use a heavy crossbow, and so they do 198 to 208 damage. So they have a +40 to hit modifier. They are just absolutely nutty. Now, they do have a penalty in close combat, so unit switches to melee weapon, melee combat, and deals only 50% damage, so you want to basically have units kind of protecting them. They also have a feature called Monster Slayer, so unit has a +3 bonus to attacks and damage against grand tier units. So that's really, really important. You can kind of right-click on enemies to see what kind of tier units they are, obviously. So you can see here's the Nalfashni and grand tier units. So if we shoot these big fatties, you'll be able to get them pretty good. And you'll notice we only have 17 of them, and it looks like we'll still kill 13 of them. So again, if you can get a good amount of these, they can get really, really nasty. But again, they are extremely expensive also at 500 experience. So you're going to have to, you know, choose to focus on them if you want to have a kind of like a range build. And again, simple animation, quite effective. Huge morale. So again, you're going to be proccing multiple attacks per round consistently. Do not underestimate that. So huge damage potential plus multi-attacks. That's a winning combination potentially. All right, and now we're going to take a look at the final two units here. So the Golden Dragon we're going to look at in a second here, and also the Scaled Fist kind of monk unit that you can get access to. So let's take a look at those. And again, as far as dragons go, we're going to compare them to the other dragons. So I brought out the Bronze Dragon here for this fight. So this one, again, costs only 325. And we kind of saw the stats here as a reminder as far as the morale, 30 AC, 409 health, 25 power. So good casting, has all those abilities we mentioned a moment ago. But let's compare it to the Golden Dragon. Now the Golden Dragon is absolutely kind of bonkers stat-wise. So it will still have the blow-through option here. Now, stat-wise here, again, they're lawful good, 141 morale, so same morale. Quite a bit more health, 660 health, insane power, 39 power. So even the best other dragons have 25 power. Their base AC is 32, so the best AC of any of the dragons. Damage reduction 3, they are fire-based, immune to sleep, paralysis, and prone. And their attacks are much, much more powerful. So you'll notice they have the same amount of attacks. But again, I don't know why the other dragons have such huge negative modifiers. But here we're seeing, the bite attack is 2d6 plus 17, so 22 to 34. And the claw attacks are quite a bit more powerful. The tail attacks are quite a bit more powerful. So they, per unit, will hit much harder. Now again, because I have an older save file, it's possible that some of these may be not perfectly calculated, but you will know that their strength, all their stats are much higher as well. So the other dragon, the best other dragon had 25 strength. This one has 30 strength, so that will do more damage and have better to hit baseline. But then there's also other features that are quite a bit nicer. Now, the first one is the breath, which is like the other breaths, but it's a fire attack, and it does power times 2d8 times unit numbers. But remember, you now have a much higher power bonus, so this is going to do more damage. And then it also applies an effect that deals power times 1d8 times unit numbers fire damage for 3 rounds. So unlike all the other dragon breaths that do not have this extra fire kind of damage over time, this one does. Now, I will note that I still think that probably the stun is a little bit more powerful that we saw earlier, but just damage is, pretty great here. And then you're going to have an ability called Dragon's Blessing. You can target another unit, and that other target is going to gain a +4 bonus to attacks for 3 rounds, and a +30 bonus to combat morale. So remember, combat morale procs the ability to have multiple attacks. You can cast this on other units, and they're going to double attack much more regularly. Now, the downside, the big downside is the experience cost, 1,625. This is the killer. I love the Golden Dragons, but we're talking about the other dragons costing, the cheaper ones were 325. So we're talking, over a 5-time cost on this. So they're extremely expensive. So if you thematically want a Golden Dragon kind of horde, yes, you can get them, but it's going to take longer to build them up. They are more powerful. They are awesome. Don't get me wrong. Let's kind of show the attack animation again. I'm going to show you the Dragon's Blessing effect here. Again, I'm not going to cast it on the monk since we're going to want to take a look at their base stats, but let's just show what it looks like. There's the blessing right there. Pretty cool little animation. Now let's look at the Scaled Fist monks again. I only have 6 of them, so not going to be doing crazy impressive damage or anything like that here. Let's look at the stats again. Very high morale, 141, 395 health. You have good AC, 26. Again, not as high as the dragons, but considering this is just a infantry unit, really, really quite good. It has damage reduction 3. Exceptions are slashing, piercing, bludgeoning. They are immune to fear, poison, disease, and being stunned, as well as frightened, sleep paralysis as well. So all the kind of stunning or disabling abilities. They do pretty decent damage, 17 to 19, so 1d3 plus the modifiers plus 16. And they do have the shield wall attack that we saw earlier. So again, because these are not, they're mythic units, but they're not grand tier units, they're not going to get that +8 bonus. So it's a +4 AC bonus, -4 attack. And if you're noticing the combat behind, it's because I accidentally hit A on my keyboard. And yeah, so I believe I just turned on auto attack, but let's just keep going for now. And then you're going to have the stunning attack as well. So the unit's attacks stuns the target for one round. That is very powerful. You can basically lock down a unit unless they're immune to stun. And what's nice about these, their experience isn't that high. They're only 110. So about a third of one of the weaker dragons and a 1/16 of a golden dragon. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they attack like. So here, they had kind of gotten the mosh pit, so I'm going to move it over here and show you the attack. Again, there's only 6 of them, so they're not going to do crazy damage. But just kind of like a monkey attack, and again, you'll notice it procced the extra attack. Again, unfortunately, enemies that are immune to stun, it's not going to be great, but you can kind of, if you proc this, in theory, if you're fighting against monsters that you can stun, you could have stunned that one, it could have run over and stunned another one. So with every attack, it can potentially stun. So versatile, you're going to get these earlier on in the game, so you could potentially get a nice army of them, very defensive, crowd control, decent attack as well. Alright, and finally let's go ahead and take a look at the Dragon Disciples, the kind of latecomers to the party here. Again, I only have 6 of them, so they're not going to be terribly effective here, unfortunately. But in case you were wondering, they are neutral good spellcasters. So they, again, are going to have really high morale here, similar to pretty much all the dragon units, so that's going to equate to a high chance of multi-attacks. They have 22 power, which is not bad, 263 hit points, very high AC for kind of melee units with 27 AC. They also have energy resistance 5 towards fire, cold, electricity, and acid. Again, they are kind of hybrids. They have dragon elements in their blood, similar to how you can play a Dragon Disciple technically in the games. They're like, they tend to have like a sorceress / melee background combined with like dragon blood. And so for them, they use a cold scimitar, so 16 to 21 damage. Not bad, not great. Now, they do have a lot of abilities you see here. I also just want to emphasize the text here. I did like this. It says, occasionally dragons can mate with representatives of other races, and their blood runs through the veins of many mortals. Those few mortals who have the ancient legacy awakened often choose the path of Dragon Disciple and become loyal companions to dragons. So they do have Withering Breath. So this is a tonal fire breath. So it does power times 2d8 times unit number fire damage. This is the same exact kind of conal attack as the dragons have. And it also has the damage over time effect, power times 1d8 times unit number for 3 rounds. It's the same as the golden dragon. So they have the highest DPS, damage per second breath, or damage per turn, I guess you could say. Additionally, they have the Dispel spell. So dispels all positive effects from the target enemy unit or all negative effects from the target allied unit that you can cast. So that's really important as well. And it looks like you can cast this 5 times in a round or in a match versus the breath is only once. Then we're going to have Grand Destiny. That you can apply this to one friendly creature. It looks like you can cast this 2 times. So the target unit gains +4 bonus to all rolls for 3 rounds. Nice little buff. You can cast Dimensional Door once, so you can teleport. You basically gain the ability to teleport for 3 rounds. And teleport lets you go anywhere on a map, and this you can cast on yourself or the characters. And then you also get Sleep Breaths. You get 2 different types of breaths. So this one right here, it is power times 2d8 times unit number fire damage, plus it puts units to sleep for 3 rounds. So that's anybody you target. Do be careful. You could technically target your own units as well. So that's important to note. Let's take a quick look. For example, if you cast Dimensional Door instead of having this weak movement, you'll have better movement on previous turns. And again, notice because of that high morale, we just proc that. So now we can go anywhere. And again, this is not going to impress anybody with the damage here, obviously, because there's only 6 of them. But let's take a look at what that looks like. So here's her teleporting around and scimitar attack. So again, if you were to get a lot of them, they could be pretty cool. Again, they have 2 different unique breaths, lots of buffs. Again, there's their death animation because there's not that many of them. Not going to be too successful against 750 units. So those are, again, the final units that I was able to find in my playthrough. Alright, so those are all the unique units for the Golden Dragon playthrough. Now I do want to, again, re-emphasize with any of these Mythic tier units, all the dragons, all those unique units, unfortunately, they are not recruitable. You will have options to upgrade other units to put into your main army, as you kind of see here. But from what I've seen, none of them are really recruitable. So the way you get more of them outside of the base amount that you get is multiplying using Call to Arms. So again, I'll re-emphasize this. This is something you can use every 2 weeks and adds units to the target army with a total value of 750 times Mythic rank. So again, at this point in the playthrough, you know, if you're tier 8 or tier 9, you know, you're going to multiply 750 times that. So if, let's say, you want to choose the Golden Dragons, remember, there's 1,650 cost, so that's expensive. So you're not going to get nearly as many of them, but you're just going to want to cast this. You start with 8 of them, and again, if I cast this right here, we're up to 12. So you can get 4 more in this calculation. So this is what I meant. These can take a while to build up, but if you do build them up, they're extremely powerful. Or you can pick one of the other units that's cheaper, and they're going to be much easier to multiply. So part of this is going to be kind of thematic. A lot of times in this game, kind of getting masses of kind of low to mid tier units seems to be quite effective. But if you want to role play Golden Dragon playthrough, then you know you got to do this option here. And again, they are extremely tanky, extremely powerful, and really fun to have in your Crusader system. Alright guys, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to drop a like. If you have any other questions about this pathway, make sure to drop them in the comments below. I'll take a look and answer them to the best of my knowledge. That being said, thank you for all the support, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video.